Hello world, how's it going today? So today I wanted to show you guys which fertilizers I use, how I use them, and just kind of my method, which is also a lot of people's method. I mostly go off the EI, which is the estimated index method, but I'll go ahead and show you guys what I use. Hello all in the chat. Wasn't sure who would still be up this late, considering I don't know what time it is. Probably 12:30 or so at night. Hello. A lot of you guys are awake. Alright, so let's get this started. First we have macros and micros. So your micros, this is going to be your micros. It's the csm+b, which is your trace elements and your iron. So that's going to be like your copper, your magnesium, and your boron, stuff like that. Yeah, I'm supposed to be asleep too. I'm actually about to do orders, getting ready to get started on that. I got them all lined up. I was in the middle of catching cherry shrimp. I was trying to get on here earlier for you guys, but I had to wait for my phone to charge. It was pretty much done after my kid watched YouTube Kids on it all day. Somebody in the chat, what is this about? We're doing fertilizers today. Okay, and here's your macros. We went through the micros here. That's your csm+b, and then your macros, which is your potassiums and like your phosphates, which you don't dose a lot of phosphates though. So they don't really consider that macros so much, but these are definitely. And I use the potassium nitrate, the KNO3, and also the potassium sulfite, the K2SO4. And where did I get the dry mix? I get these from my boy nilocg.com. He's been doing it for a long time. Now there's many ways and many forms of getting fertilizers in your tanks, but since I have so many, this is definitely the most cost-effective way to do it. Like, it's next to nothing. Like a bag of this stuff, I think like a quarter pound or a pound of this stuff's like $10 or something like that. Same with all of it. So what I'll do is I have a regimen, and since I have hard water, I dose more of the potassium. Now it all depends on your plants, your water, your biomass. So actually, let me flip you guys over. So it all depends on your lighting, how much biomass you have in here to eat fertilizers, stuff like that. Since I have hard water, I've got a lot of calcium, a lot of iron already in my water, so I don't dose a lot of the micros. I try to skip that every once in a while, but what I'll do is you always want to alternate. So you want to do macros one day and you want to do micros the other day. And the reason for this is because some of the minerals in the iron and trace will bond with the potassium. And as far as when I mix the solutions, I always use RO or distilled water. That way you know it's more pure. Like if you have softer water, you're going to be able to dial your water a lot better than I would be, since I have harder water. And as far as recipes go, if you notice I got these numbers with the little recipes on here, like, okay, 1.4 grams per 20 gallons raises it 11 parts per million. Now this is an old recipe from Rex Grigg from back in the day. He used to be real popular in the hobby. But there's a lot of different recipes you could do. Like I said, as far as like the numbers go, like how much you're going to want to feed your plants depends on if you're putting in pressurized CO2. Do you have a lot of high light? Do you do a lot of water changes? What's your fish load like? What's your biomass load like? But the biggest key is to just have food for your plants, because you're never going to grow plants if you don't ever feed them. So here you can see another formula I have, 2.8 grams, 20 gallons. But then again, it doesn't tell you the parts per million. I actually had these all written down at one point, like on the side. You can see where it rubbed off. So it kind of screwed me over. So I've kind of been messing with like new recipes and testing stuff. Actually been making my life easier, and I'll just like throw 100 grams of the trace in there, 100 grams of the potassium in there. And as far as the other thing I dose is liquid carbon excel. Now I'll dose this about every day with everything. Sometimes I'll skip on it just because it can get kind of pricey for me to dose all these tanks all the time. But this is the biggest building block when it comes to feeding plants for sure. Alright, I'm seeing some questions in the chat here. Let me scroll and see if I can see if there's any real good ones that need to be hit. Oh, hello, hello. Lots of hellos in there. Do you add Excel to your mix to keep them from going bad? No, I've never actually added Excel to the mix inside of them. What I really do need for these though is a tip on here. It would be great if these were covered to keep from evaporation, because I do get evaporation and pressure that'll come up out of here. And these are just like those like squirt bottles athletes use and whatnot, but it's real easy to like dose stuff. You just psh, 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 psh. I've already hit all these tanks today with iron. The squirt bottles, I got those I think on eBay. I just looked for, what are they? I think they're 1,000 milliliters. Let's see, and as far as there are other sources as well for fertilizers. This is just the cheapest way to do it. Are shrimp tanks varied in terms of dosage or elements to feed? Worried for my Thai bees. As far as Thai bees, I don't have a lot of Thai bees, but I do dose all this into all my shrimp tanks as well. I've got blue bolts. But some shrimp can be very finicky and sensitive to, like this is the one I would worry about the most. Because of the copper, it's got very, very, very little trace element, and I've never had any issue with it. I know that Nilo CG guy has actually created a shrimp safe fertilizer. And I'm not sponsored by that guy at all, but he's been doing it a long time. He's great with helping people trying to figure out what kind of recipes would work for them. I believe there's FERT calculators you can use. He may have a link on his site. I know Chaz Hing of Elevate Shrimp has one. Can't you use plastic wrap to cover the holes? I could probably do that. Did you try the aquarium co-op first yet? Yeah, I did try the aquarium co-op first, but for me, since I have 155 tanks, for me to get cost effective, it's hard for me to do it off aquarium co-ops first, but they do work well. How would you differ dosage to bioload? Okay, so if you got more plants, obviously they're going to eat more. So, and if there's like less plants, like this tank's hardly got any plants in it. It's got a Nubius, which is a low light, so it's going to be it's not going to eat very much. But then you got moss that'll eat a bunch. Pearlweed will eat a bunch. So it all depends on the behavior of the plant too. So that all kind of goes in with biomass and everything else. Alright, do you dose on the day you put the plants in, or do you wait a few days? I'll dose on the day I put the plants in. Why not feed them already? I would dose, like, after water changes. What I'll usually do, since I have hard water with iron, a lot of iron and calcium and stuff in it, what I'll do after a water change, since I'm getting all that iron put back in it from the water change, I'll then dose it with my macros, my potassium. That way it kind of balances everything. Then next day will be iron, then next day will be potassium. Now granted, I'm not perfect at keeping up with the regimen. I'm actually really terrible at it. But it's best to try to do it if you possibly can. The more you do, the better results you'll have. But say you miss some days here and there, it won't be the end of the world. Now, I did just try recently to go through the whole fish room and do it without the Excel. And you really do need the Excel, because if you don't use Excel, it'll start growing BBA. But you can see here the BBA's turning red right there. So it's actually starting to die off already. But you can see how it's starting to rear its head in. So yeah, definitely the Excel definitely helps as well, because you need carbon. Now if you're using a filter and you got carbon in your filter, you're good. You just need some source of carbon in there. My ideology of not using that Excel was the fact that there was already a lot of carbon based organics left in the tank since they're so mature, but didn't seem to work that way. You gotta try though. Never know till you try. Do you use all those ferts in every tank with the decent biomass? Yeah, I hit every single tank with it. What does carbon from Excel do compared to the fertilizer? Carbon is just another block, an element of what plants need, and it's actually the biggest one. So it's just like any nutrition, like anything eating. It needs certain vitamins to do one thing or not. And if something's missing, it will definitely make a difference. So if you're dosing more iron and you're not dosing potassium, you're going to have issues. Same with vice versa with the Excel and the iron. Do you mean filtered charcoal? Yep. That would be the carbon in your filter, and that stuff works good too. Oh, well, does it excel your plant's growth? Yes, it does. I guess that's why they call it Excel. Do you dose everything when the lights are on, or do you dose some when they are off? I always try to dose in the morning, that way it could be consumed by the night. And then I'll just redo it. That way everything's eaten up, and then it's good for tomorrow. Trolls and dungeons. We're getting some trolls tonight, are we? What's BBA? BBA is blackbeard algae. Shimmy whiskey. Hello, LR. Alright, so any questions before I hop off here? I got your cherry shrimp and they seem too small to breed. How do I put size on them, and can it increase? How quick can they breed? Well, they don't get that big to begin with. And trust me, they'll start breeding. Give them like a month or two. Your mom is a troll. Aquarium co-op. That's hilarious. I hope you're not talking about my mom. She's passed away, so that would be terrible. How much Flourish Excel would you dose to a 1 gallon Wallstead? That's a good question. I would just a little bit. You wouldn't need much. They do have like dosage recommendations on the bottles and everything. And like I said, there's other ways to get it too. Corey from Aquarium Co-op, he's got like ways to dose carbon. Same with his minerals and whatnot. Do you look at your plants for iron deficiencies, or do you dose iron regularly? I had to stop. Yeah, I kind of read the plants too, like what's going on with them, if there'll be some coloring or something missing. Algae's a good indicator as well. Algae's a big indicator. I did hear it's better to dose iron when the lights are off. Yeah, I heard Bob said that, but I don't know. It could be, it couldn't be. Either way, it's in the column, it's in the tank. They're going to get absorbed at some point in time. What plants do you put outside, and do you dose? Yeah, I do dose the ones outside as well. And pretty much anything I can get to grow out there. I've been testing a lot of plants out there. Alright, any last questions before I hop off here? Kyle's Wild World, hit me up with that super chat. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. I stopped using Excel, thought it was burning out my water sprite. Yes, if you overdo it, it can burn out plants. Look at that upper Tor River species, Melanitania. Finally they're getting some good color on them. Can't wait till he gets bigger. What ferts are bad for shrimp? I haven't had any issue with it. Dosing with my shrimp, any problems with ferts? Let's see. So in theory, if I never dosed my wallstead with any ferts, all plants would die. You may have saved me. Yes, you've got to feed your plants. No matter what kind of method you're using. Natural or not. Corey was responding to a troll. Could you do a quick overview of what to look for in potassium or iron deficiencies? Like, part of these holes are for deficiencies like potassium and iron deficiencies. You'll see some yellowing, you'll see some holes. Now, some of these lower leaves, sometimes it can be like the light and the par value. But that tank's got decent enough light that that's a deficiency. Same with here. You see the deficiency in here. So sometimes plants can be like a timeline. You can see kind of like when you slack off on your fertilizers and everything. Will potassium kill shrimp? No, no, no. Potassium is great and is very safe. Iron builds strong muscles. Human blood has iron. We can dose our blood as ferts. Lucas, what is the difference between Miller's microcomplex and cm+b from Nilo CG? I think there's something different in the microcomplex. Miller's microcomplex, that's a newer kind of formula that they have. I haven't ever used it. Lori made me spend $30 on that magazine. I'm sorry, but it's definitely worth it. It's definitely worth it. Have you ever tried mixing all the powders together in one formula? No, now you can't mix all the powders in the same because this will bond. Like something in these will bond together and it will make your iron, I believe, make your iron useless. Like over-the-counter potassium. Yeah, this is just straight, like, say you're a scientist and you wanted some ferts. I'm not sure where exactly he sources it, but, like, this is just regular old potassium nitrate and potassium sulfate, so it's not, don't let the scienciness of it make it look complicated. It's actually pretty simple. So you got your micros, which is your iron, and then your potassium, which is your macros. So when you hear people talk about micros and macros, that's what they're talking about. And then the phosphate, that's just like a little kick boost. That's kind of like the nitro. But you don't use very much of that. Does Easy Green have potassium in it? I believe so. Easy Green is actually a very good formulated solution. I was very surprised when I read what was on it in the bottle. What if I feed banana with a potassium that get eaten up by the plants? Possibly, but you're not going to get enough to really make a difference. Shrimp would like it, probably. Even the fish might even like it. SEO tutor in London for years. Yeah, for some reason my SEO game, YouTube is not helping me out. But oh well. Alright, I use banana leaves in my water. Would that contain potassium? Yeah, not enough to actually do anything. How do you mix it? What I'll do is, as you see, I got spoons in there, so I'll measure out what I want. Fill it up with RO or distilled water, shake it all up. And then, bam. Now, sometimes it takes a while to shake. Like, this one still has stuff on the bottom of it. So I'll kind of shake it up before I start spraying it. And there's other ways you can dose that too. Like you can stick it in a cup, mix it up. Reason why I do it like this is because I have so many tanks and it just makes it easy. Yes, I've heard of people using rusty nails too for iron. That's what they used to use back in the day. What did you say the carbon does? The carbon is one of the biggest building blocks in growing plants. So the ideal of it all is the balance. And with algae, see, you got to feed your plants good because they're going to outcompete the algae. So if they're not eating, they're not growing, the algae will eat off of whatever excess is there. They don't mind the imbalances. Now, your plants, the key is to outgrow any algae problems. It's all about balance. I kind of, let's see. All right. Carbon would be our skeleton, blah, blah, blah. A whole banana. Yeah, even a whole banana wouldn't have that much. Alright guys, so I'm not seeing a whole lot of other questions in here, and I really need, did you say the carbon in the filter will cover the needed source? Yes, that'll help cover it. Now if you want to double it up, throw a little bit of that in there, it helps. But it's not necessary if you keep it fresh in your filter. Alright guys, so I gotta get back to shipments. It's gonna be a late one for me. Actually, matter of fact, I'm probably not gonna sleep until tomorrow night, which is late night, like early morning. So it's gonna be all nighter anyway. But I will see you guys tomorrow. And if you guys want to hit these streams up, don't forget to hit that bell notification so you guys can get on here when I'm on here to ask your questions if you want to. So until next time, everybody, peace.